One of our objectives for the organizations for having this event today is really to bring these issues to policymakers and to the Washington, D.C. audience, and to try to galvanize action collectively to try to respond to this crisis that is only intensifying as climate change also intensifies. And our organization in particular is concerned that as resistance to fossil fuels grows, as it must, as we try to avoid the worst effects of climate change, that's going to lead to greater repression of activists who are on the front line of that struggle as well. So that's an important part of the context also. But in terms of being here in Washington and raising these issues with policymakers, raising these issues with organizations that are working on these issues in Washington, we think it was important to try to do that and take advantage of this opportunity that we have here. Despite the political context in Washington right now, the United States does remain an important moral authority and can be an influential voice in support of the valiant work of environmental land defenders around the world.
A range of different activists. In most of the cases that we work on, it's community members who have found that a large-scale business project, or even a small-scale business project, has been imposed on their community without their consent, and then they feel compelled to stand up and defend their rights. Maybe by the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders, he published a report about environmental activists and showed that they are facing an increasing amount of threats, attacks, and obstacles globally. And you can see some of them there on the board. So the UN Special Rapporteur on Indigenous Peoples outlined 5 kinds of criminalization that are affecting Indigenous activists. But our research shows that this isn't only affecting Indigenous activists. These are indeed the kinds of criminalization that are affecting environmentalists and land rights defenders around the world. The majority of land and environmental activists are often protesting against business interests. We see that the only way in which they're really going to be kept safe is if companies and investors also take action. And indeed, if other countries who are providing aid or doing trade with countries like the Philippines, Colombia, Brazil, that are coming out at the top of that list, also take action. And they need to take action along these 3 lines. So supporting and protecting those defenders who are already at risk, but guaranteeing accountability when attacks do occur. And that goes beyond prosecutions. Of course, the Filipino government should be prosecuting whoever is attacking defenders in that country, but also companies operating in that country where threats and attacks occur need to be holding their staff, their subsidiaries to account. And tackling the root cause, we can see in almost all of the cases we deal with, the root cause is that imposition of a business project onto a community without their consent. That sets them on a collision course that leads to these threats, attacks, and killings. In terms of what the US can do, the US needs to develop and implement stronger policies on this issue. So the US at the moment has what they call a State Department fact sheet, which is on protection of human rights defenders. It lays out a range of things that ought to be done to support human rights defenders at risk. However, that fact sheet is very little known, even amongst staff that we interact with in embassies around the world, and implementation is patchy. So policies need to be strengthened, they need to be mainstreamed around the world. The executive could do that, the State Department should review that and should strengthen it, learning from other countries. For example, Canada produced a policy last year that's similar about supporting defenders at risk, where they commit to withdrawing trade support for Canadian companies that are associated with threats or attacks on defenders. That's the kind of thing that ought to be in a strong policy on defenders. Congress could act, of course, along these lines as well. And as civil society, unfortunately, I think we do have a role at the moment in raising awareness within government departments of the existence of this existing policy. Embassies need to be more proactive. We've been talking about this recently in Brazil, in the Philippines, about the role of embassies on the ground in supporting defenders at risk. So US embassies can do a whole range of things, whether that is speaking out publicly, or if they don't feel they can, at least speaking privately to governments, to companies about what's going on with defenders. They should visit defenders in the field who are facing threats and receive them